Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this very interesting and timely panel discussions. I have to admit first that at first I thought it's going to be panel discussion, so I just did my PowerPoint today in 10 minutes in my car on the way here. So I apologize in advance for the quality of the PowerPoint. I just gave a talk on the energy transition before, but that include many variety type of topics like investor state arbitration, the ESG and many other stuff. But today we will focus only on the CBAM. And because I've been allocated 15 minutes, but I seen that we run behind the schedule, so I will try to summarize my best in 10 minutes. So at first, I plan to show you the video, which is only about 3 minutes, but I don't think we should do that given the time that we have. Basically, in this video, it shows you the background about the CBAM. For example, it just say like CBAM stands for the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. If you see the CBAM, the element in the name of this scheme, you see the term border. You understand that the reason why we have CBAM in the first place, if you want to play ahead of the game, you should know that the reason why we have CBAM, because EU they have before the CBAM is the EU ETS, which is applied to the internal market in the EU. And they're afraid that, as one of our colleagues already presented, they're afraid that's going to be the issue of the carbon leakage, where the EU producer might relocate their production to be outside the EU because somewhere else, other country, they not really have the stringent law on the environmental protection or global climate change. And that's why they have to have CBAM. So in case I run out of time, I plan to speak about this point at the end, but I like to say now that, so if you want to plan ahead, the good strategy is that you have to check the coverage of the EU ETS, because if they want to expand, it's going to be pretty much the same group of the scope of the EU ETS. Why? As I said, I highlight already that the whole point of the CBAM is that they prevent the relocation of the carbon leakage. So if they want to expand, it's going to be the same type of good that already included within the EU ETS, because they prevent those EU importers to relocate the production outside the EU. For example, but for the time being, they already mentioned, as our first speaker already presented, that they might expand to the polymer and also the refineries sectors. They even mentioned about, because EU ETS also contain the transportation sector, so they said that they might even think about expanding the coverage of the CBAM to cover the transportation sector as well, because they have that in ETS. So the criteria is that if it's included, they will. I learned it from the representative from the EU himself. He said that if he wants to expand, basically it has to be something that already covered by the EU ETS, because again, the whole point is about carbon leakage. Secondly, it has to be carbon kind of intensive type of products. Otherwise, no point about the global warming objective. And lastly, it has to be something that have a trade intensity as well with the EU, because if no trade, no point of, again, preventing of the carbon leakage. So you should check that. So they even mentioned, apart from polymer, refinery, transportation, the representative from EU also give example of some of the downstream product as well. For example, they mentioned the washing machine, because steel is the component inside the washing machine, the laundry machine. So they might expand to have some effect on those type of downstream product as well. Meaning that you can't just look at those 6 sectors that they identify, and those six sectors could even be misleading as well. Because the whole point, the real application is will affect your type of products or not. It's more about the CN code in the Annex 1 of the CBAM. So you have to check if your type of product covered by the Annex 1, the CN code of the goods or not. 6 industry is more just to give you the idea more about the component inside the products, right? Because we already seen that six industry or six type or category that as already presented to you, include even like hydrogen as well. Actually, they want to expand to other type of chemical substance also, but they want to start with the hydrogen. So at the end of the day, most advisor will tell you to check the Annex 1, the CN code for the time being. But as I said, if you want to play ahead of the game, check all the product that already covered by the EU ETS, the one that they use inside the European Union first. And here, to simplify again as well, the duties of you, if you are non-producer or non-EU producer, this is going to be your real duty. Some people still misunderstood, they think that they have to comply, to do a lot of paperwork, the Excel sheet, they have to fill in or whatever. Those going to be the duty of the EU side, EU importers. You will only have to perform those duties if you are also the importers of the product as well. So the only situation where the non-EU producer will have to be part of the EU CBAM is that you also perform the duty of importer. So in that case, then, sorry, you have to do that one too, the compliance. But if you are exporter, as already mentioned by Dr. Isla, you only have to provide the information. You have to bear in mind, though, during the transitional period that everyone might already have been informed several times, there was the use of the default value. So that's why if you are exporter, you might not be asked for any information before during the transitional period, because I guess that maybe your importer using the defaulting value. So it doesn't mean that you can sit on it, because now I think it's already ended the period for using the default value. From now on, you should try to use they have to use your actual value of emission. And actually, I think for your best interest, trying to submit the actual value if you are very green. Why? Because this is something kind of the educational period for the EU Commission, EU regulator themselves. They want to collect the data. So usually if you greener than the defaulting value, you submit them the actual one that lower than the default value. In the future, the one that they apply to you gonna be lower as well. Because the representative from EU, they said that default value might come back again for the real period, compulsory one. And they even aim to use the country-specific default value as well. So even when you come to the definitive period, the real one, you might still be able to use the default value. That's what they say, though, they're not yet finalized. And they said that they aim to use the country-specific default value based on the information that they gathered so far since the transitional period. So try, if you are confident that you're very keen, try to do a little bit of work so they will obtain the lower value of emission from our country. That is the key point. So that's why I just want to clarify that most of the things that we learn, from the training courses abroad, they refer to the importers in EU, so we don't have to worry too much about the paperwork, because those going to be the duty of those who import from outside EU. Although I would say, as a lawyer as well, in practice, something that impact them, they might have to renegotiate certain term obligation in the contract with you, the exporter. You might have a lot more costs require something that include the compliance with the CBAM or even the ESG compliance as well. There might be a risk of more contractual dispute as well in the future relating to the new requirements under those new compliance. There might even, some people, some lawyers, they even advise you to think about the renegotiating of the contractual terms also. You might have to think about what happened if something went wrong and the importer, if they pay higher fee because something wrong with your reporting to them, they might renegotiate and put some responsibility on your side too as an exporter. So even legally, this EU law impact the EU importers, But commercially, in the commercial contract, they might translate some responsibility into your contract as well. So we expect to see some new type of courses about that. For example, what if, and at the end of the day, if you not comply with this, although you're not the one that got the direct sanction from the EU authority, but your business sanction will be that they would not be allowed to import from you. They will change to the suppliers or exporter who can comply with the EU requirements. Otherwise, they're gonna be the one that commit something illegal offense in their country or to pay the EU certificates. One more thing that I like you to draw attention to, inside the EU system, there's some type of study that they provide you with the CBAM EU ETS forecast as well, meaning that they forecast the price that they have to pay for the carbon credit. And you can see that by the end, in 2030, it could be as high as 122.14 euro per ton. So it's going up, meaning that you have to comply, I think. And another thing that you might need to bear in mind, this for them though, in the EU system, those EU businesses that can buy the CBAM certificate. But one thing that I don't know how you will apply that to your case, but the thing is that the CBAM certificates for them can be valid for 2 years from the time that they purchase from the EU authority. So it can be valid for 2 years. That means that there is another type of transaction as well. It's about the, kind of the trading, the way, the strategy, how to buy it, the speculation. Because the CBAM price very highly fluctuated. So some of the EU traders, the EU businesses, they are already trained about like the trading scheme, how to be strategic about that. Because it might going up by this year, today, you can keep it valid for two years. That is for them. So, but for us, if we are exporter, we might have to know those type of information in case they want us to bear a lot of cost. We might say that, but come on, you can keep it for 2 years. There might not be the direct cost of the CBAM certificate, the whole thing that they have to bear every time that the price go up if they bought in advance for 2 years. This one just information, something that for you to negotiate in case they try to impose some new obligation for you. And this is the forecast of the CBAM price, as I said. Everything will be linked to the EU ETS, as I said. If you understand this, EU ETS a bit, you will be kind of understand the CBAM even better. And some people even say that the unstated purpose of the CBAM is that for the EU to have the money to subsidies to pay for the subsidy for the EU ETS project. Because under their internal EU ETS project, some sector will get the subsidy or the free allowance from the EU. So some people say that they have the CBAM in order to get the money to use that to, subsidize this part. So once the coverage of the CBAM cover everything, the free allowance regime will be fed out as well. And by that time, you can't avoid it. And if you look at the trend around the world, I might not read this out as we run out of time. You can see that many countries have a lot of things about the CBAM in their own country, or even the emission trading system. India, Brazil, Indonesia, some countries negotiate with the EU as well, like South Korea, for instance. Korea Industry Ministry will ask EU for temporary exception for the steel exports. But I think most people say the same thing, that we wouldn't recommend you to do nothing, sit on it, and wait for the government to just negotiate. Because at the end of the day, as our speaker already presented, most countries now aim to have their own version of EU ETS, EU CBAM. UK already gonna have one, UK CBAM, 1 year after the definitive period of the EU. Although UK, they will exclude the electricity because UK import electricity from EU. So no point to do CBAM on electricity. but UK might include the ceramics and glass and something else. But at the end of the day, the aim is that they will try to replicate something or duplicate something that EU already have. Why? Because your importer will get this information, ask you for this information as well. If in your country you have any type of the carbon emission tax or those or not. Because EU, if they know that this imported product already pay something in the domestic market, you will get the importer will get the reduction, basically. However, the authority, the representative from the EU also say that it doesn't mean that they will automatically give you the same amount of reduction. There's going to be some type of verifier first. If the way that your country run the CBAM system or the carbon emission system, are those system comparable to the EU system or not? So they're kind of saying indirectly that don't expect them to recognize 100% of the tax that you pay abroad, but they will do their best to try to give some account to that. So as I said, and because every country going toward this trend, if you're not doing this, your market gonna be much narrower, because everyone doing this. If you check update on the news, so in the future there's gonna be a lot of CBAM type of regimes around the world. If you're not doing that, your choice of the market will be super small. And as I said, and if some country they don't do that, some even Thai business, the industry, they're quite concerned as well. For example, would some country that export some type of product that's the same as Thailand, if they can't export to EU, would they change to come to Thailand or not? And then the price will be driven down because you have a lot of supply in that case. So in any event, I think there are some opportunity in this kind of type of the new compliance as well. You might take it as an opportunity to make your business greener. So it's gonna increase your chance, and we hope that, I think the Thai government will do the thing. Even when we have the system in Thailand, the money that they get from us, they should use it for the the investment in R&D or support the business to make it greener. That is the whole point of collecting those type of tax in Thailand as well. So, and there might be some opportunity for new type of business verifiers, or some type of other green technology type of companies. You might earn more. But as I said, we have to wait and see the clear picture for this. For the EU, they not yet have the clear rule about how will they recognize the other country CBAM yet, but they said they're working on it. So everything's still not like settled most of the time. Even inside their system, some of the issue they still wait and see. But for sure, for everyone here, I think to be green gonna increase your opportunity. You can't avoid it. Everyone going into this direction. We just hope that we will have support from the government. Even World Bank, they think about lending some money if you want to do something about the green project, green technology. So it's about to see the crisis to change it into the opportunity, and then in this case you might not even just survive, but even doing better. So I try to be positive on everything, and I hope that we will survive this together. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ